Hey, what's up, DS3TV? I can see you haven't subscribed to the channel. It's kind of weird. You should subscribe. I mean, we got some good content here. And also, go to the Twitch that's in the link down in the description. Link is probably right here under me. And yeah, should do all of that. And yeah, please subscribe. Get to see me have hot sauce that I don't really want to have when we get to 10,000. So subscribe. What's up, DS3TV? We are back for another video. This one is History Summarized. It's Overcast Productions History Summarized, and this one is actually gonna be on the Castles of Wales, which is actually, I don't think I ever shared my the ancestry DNA test that I got, but yeah, I have a little bit of Welsh in me too, so that's fun. And yeah, that's why I was kind of interested in this video. So we're gonna get into it, and yeah, let's get into it and see what this video is about. As you know, captions are always gonna be on, and yeah, also link for the original video is going to be down in the description down below. And yeah, let's get into this fun video to learn about the Castles of Wales.
Of all the accomplishments and legacies of the medieval world, few things capture the popular imagination like castles. These stone-built cities in miniature at once reflect the staggeringly long history of warfare, as well as the splendor of royalty and the remarkable brightness of these cultures. From kings and their knights to governing officials, visiting dignitaries, traveling merchants, and agricultural locals, medieval life at every level unfolded within their towering walls, and these great citadels stand as a built record of that history. And they're the kind of multi-purpose structures where functions overlap. A wide scenic view is a strategic asset for spotting incoming armies, so most castles are smack in the middle of the most beautiful vistas imaginable. And that aesthetic spiffiness in turn becomes a point of prestige for the castle's owner. Power, peril, and more than a little prettiness are all wrapped up in these castles. But perhaps the simplest reason why they captivate us is because we just don't make them anymore. Old cities are gorgeous, but we still have cities. Churches and temples are plenty impressive, but those are everywhere. And even the grandest civic buildings have an air of normalness to them because people go to the place for their jobs. But castles are a relic of a time we do not live in, and that otherworldliness makes them fascinating. The reasons they were built, the shapes...
And true, I feel like also another thing too, by living in a country, in a colonized country, right? That, all of our buildings are made, fairly recently comparatively to to Europe, where you could some of you subscribers from Europe might say oh yeah, I've lived in a house that was built in the 1400s. That's something that you can never have here because everything was made from the 1800s and then on, right? Because we just never had really good infrastructure, and yeah, that's why you'll see a lot of new houses too, by the way, that people move in. A lot of people don't really move into the old houses that much. And when we have old houses, they're usually I would say maybe give or take at the oldest 100 years, but usually they were renovated, not refurbished, but renovated and stuff done to it to upgrade the house so that way it has AC and stuff like that, right? Which is something that you just won't find in Europe, and I guess that's why we have such a fascination with castles that were built so much farther than anything here in America was built in, right? That's probably another reason I would say.
They took, the decorations they had, the ways they fell into ruin, all these factors are so distant to us that we see castles more as strongholds of fantasy than a living system where society and warfare converged. And I likewise struggled to wrap my head around these things until I came to Wales and saw a few for myself. Welsh castles are so numerous compared to the modest size of the place that Wales is the most castle-dense country on Earth.
600 castles for 8,000 miles. That's crazy. That means a castle every 13 miles. But given the Midlands, are so thoroughly mountainous. Sorry, I have to like. The effective density is much higher. That's crazy.
Given England is right next door, we can guess they weren't built for fun. Now, most of these castles have survived, albeit in different states of functionality or completeness, so to better understand how they worked and what they meant for the story of Wales, let's do some history. The tale of castles in Britain goes back to Roman times and their abundant need of them to deal with those rowdy Celts. At a minimum, most every town with Chester or Car gets its name from the Latin castrum and was originally built as a Roman military fort. Roman Britain was a forts first, towns later kind of place. But while the Englandy bits were full of spiffy cities by the height of the empire, Roman presence in Wales was one, maybe two towns and forts for days. Much like Hadrian's Wall for Scotland, this amount of historical troublemaking is a dear source of
Get the fuck that lot of use.
Welsh pride. 1 millennium later, some of these spots got repurposed after the Norman conquest for a new age of castle building. See, in 1066, William the Conqueror won the entire kingdom after a single battle, but he needed some new strategies in order to hold on to it. What followed was the heftiest single wave of castle building in British history. With a whole kingdom to pacify and not much time to do it, William and his nobles started by locking down key cities and protecting lines of supply and communication across rivers or old Roman roads. By the end of the century, they'd built several hundred castles across England and South Wales. A small handful of these were made of stone, but the rest were built from wood as a motte and bailey, an earthwork hill with a central keep on top and a fortified garrison below, with stables, storehouses, and anything else the castle owner would like to have behind a wall. These first castles may not conjure all the dramatic medieval vibes, but they were quick to build and plenty effective at stopping mass uprisings against the new Norman government. Even an architecture gremlin like myself can't fault their definitely correct priorities. English castles transitioned to stone over the next century, with new and newly refurbished castles opting for a more permanent material than wood. In Wales, however, Norman rule was substantially less established, so the ease and versatility of timber castles kept them in use well into the 1200s. But even from the Normans' first arrival, the key difference from England is Wales did not come pre-conquered, so castles were built offensively rather than defensively. And in practice, that meant they were built faster, more often, much closer together, and against an organized enemy who was also building castles. Both the Norman lords in the southern borderlands, called the Marches, as well as the Welsh princes
The Welsh Marches are borderlands distinct from the core territory, either at the edge of a realm or between two realms. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European root, derives from the Latin marga.
themselves were castling seemingly every river and valley in Wales. These offensive castles often skipped the motte completely and just built a fortified earthwork bailey, what we sometimes call a ringwork castle, and as the frontier shifted over the 10 to 1200s, old castles were abandoned while new ones were...
It's so much text here. Surprisingly, there's surprisingly fierce debate among architects, archaeologists, and castellologists about how to differentiate castle types. So ringwork is an iffy term. What defines a castle also gets hotly debated. Core point is sometimes speed beats thoroughness. No, I could see that though. I could see that like being a thing.
Were built to suit the current strategic needs. And that is exhausting to catalog at scale. So let's zoom into Caerphilly Castle, one of the most consequential and best preserved castles in the country. Originally the site of a Roman fort, Caerphilly began construction all the way in 1268. Cardiff Castle, by contrast, was built just 7 miles south along the coast 2 centuries earlier. Conquering Wales, clearly a fraught process. Timetables notwithstanding, this castle was built by the noble de Clare family, who added the Welsh county of Glamorgan to their already impressive portfolio of estates in 1217. In the 1260s, the young Gilbert de Clare helped win a civil war between the king and his barons, and then turned his focus north to the alarming threat of the Welsh Prince Llywelyn ap Gruffydd. To protect his inland holdings and defend Cardiff itself if things got really bad, Gilbert de Clare began work on Caerphilly Castle in 1268. It was built entirely of stone, but seeing as that takes more time, it was still vulnerable enough for Prince Llywelyn to attack attack and possibly even destroy the castle in 1270. Construction resumed the next year in the new concentric style with nestled layers of fortifications, in this case 2 rivers and 3 outer walls. Thanks to a brief peace, the castle was finished in the mid-1270s just in time for the new English King Edward to launch a final campaign to conquer Wales. And with the prince defeated in 1282, Wales was no longer a constant war zone, so Gilbert swiftly reassessed the purpose of his castle, converting it into a fine country estate in the following decades. The fortifications on Caerphilly remain gorgeous in their scope and complexity, and De Clare recognized the prestige to be had from a swanky castle, as even though the Welsh threat had passed, he continued renovating and expanding the defenses for seemingly aesthetic purposes alone. There's no strategic reason to make the outermost walls symmetrical, except matchy shapes make happy brain go burr. By his death, Caerphilly had turned from a wartime fortress into a palace fit for a minor royal. The castle's story continues through decades of aristocratic escapades, but in the 1640s, Caerphilly's peaceful quiet turns to ruin during the Wars of the...
In 1317, the castle passed through a marriage of Eleanor de Clare to Hugh Despenser, and his son also named Hugh Despenser. They were a real pair of nuts. Is that the phrase? I feel like that should be a phrase. Is that a phrase? I feel like that should be a phrase. But anyway, the two Hughes got in good with King Edward II when Hugh the Younger became the royal chamberlain in 1318. Oh, so a year later. They did a big greed, siphoning loads of wealth from the crown in Caerphilly, and causing a barren revolt in 1321 to 1322, and civil war in 1326.
The Three Kingdoms, when hundreds of castles across the Isles were battered by a new and very unsporting tactic called torrential cannon fire. And many of the castles that survived were deliberately wrecked after the war to render them useless. Such was the case with Caerphilly, hence the dramatic lean on the southeast tower, and so it remained until the 1920s and 30s when the Marquess of Bute launched a contentiously thorough reconstruction.
Oh no. Let me see. Okay, we should be able to watch it now. Something happened with the recording software, so yeah. Lord, let me see. I just want to make sure the camera's still on.
Around this time. Spectators in the historical community, as well as the British government, had and...
Lord Bute also redid much of Cardiff Castle. Seen here, the line of red bricks marks the end of the surviving stonework. Start of the new construction above, it was rather thorough. Yeah, it looks, oh my gosh. That's crazy that, like, they marked it so that way you could be like, yeah, like, this is like the old work, this is like the new, like, work up here, like on top, I'm guessing. That's crazy, because yeah, like, you can see like how uneven like the bricks were and stuff from like the past.
Still have deep misgivings about the scope of the transformation and the irreversible damage to the original ruins. But man, is it something else to be able to walk over a drawbridge, through a gatehouse, out to the courtyard, into the Great Hall, and up along the walls and towers. It's the rare chance to engage with a complete medieval castle. It conflicts me, yet it compels me. The history of castles in Wales continues up north, where King Edward cemented his victory by stuffing the place with more castles, just like the first Normans had done after their conquest. And the royal castles of the north are the grandest and most impressive in Wales on account of all that crown money. Here too, they shifted to luxurious residences over time as royal power solidified and warfare in Britain became the exception rather than the rule. Wales got its last new castle at Raglan. By the Tudor monarchs, Welsh castles retreated to the background, a legacy of conquests and an older, distant era. By the time Caerphilly was ruined, nobody knew who built it or when, with explanations ranging from ancient forts to alleged by its castles, but they are the most potent physical
That is such a cool thing, and I'm guessing they died they died like the water green. That's
Relic
really
of a
cool too.
winding, lively history, and the simple act of walking into one rockets you back to a time when that story was being written, river by river, valley by valley, castle by castle. Thank you for watching. I visited carefully.
I mean, that was such a really good video, to be honest. Yeah, I loved it. Learned a lot about Wales that I didn't know previously. So definitely learned a lot. That's why I probably didn't say as much as I probably should have. But yeah, the original video is in the comment section down below. And yeah, talk to you guys in the next video. And also recommend me videos in the comment section down below. So yeah, talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.